Pirates have always been a cornerstone of fiction. From Treasure Island to Treasure Planet, the human race has always been obsessed with these thrilling tales of pirates. However, the launch of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise saw a massive resurgence in the popularity of these stories, and Doctor Who decided to piggyback on the success. This led to the 2011 episode Curse of the Black Spot, written by Doctor Who newcomer Stephen Thompson. This story dives in deep with the most pirate episode to ever pirate, as the Doctor, Amy and Rory meet Captain Henry Avery and battle a vengeful siren hunting down the crew. Curse of the Black Spot suffers from being sandwiched between the highly acclaimed opening two-parter and the Doctor's wife. It's one that people don't really talk about and just dismiss as being bad. But is it actually a strong episode that simply pulled the short straw? Well, throw your family gold out the window and try not to get a paper cut, because it's time to review The Curse of the Black Spot. Throughout the long and storied history of the human race, so many real figures and groups have become borderline mythical because of their fantastical legacies and the infinite storytelling potential they provide. Whether it's cowboys in the Wild West, medieval knights battling dragons, or honourable samurai warriors fighting the hordes of the Mongols, our planet's rich history has no shortage of larger-than-life characters. One of the most prominent of these groups is that of pirates, swashbuckling criminals who sailed the high seas in search of riches, pleasure and power. For hundreds of years, pirates have become glorified and fictionalised for similar reasons to Robin Hood. This grand honourable sense of sticking it to the man and living a free life with your own laws and code of ethics. Pirates have a worldwide appeal because they have had a presence within nearly every single major region of the world, like South Asian and Chinese pirates in the distant past, and Somali pirates in more recent history. However, the most prominent are the European and American pirates who eluded the British and Spanish navies, hiding in secret pirate havens like Havana and Tortuga, in between hunting treasures with their crews of hardened sea dogs. They're so synonymous with the term pirates that it's pretty much the first thing you think of. This all makes it quite surprising that Doctor Who barely visited this well of potential during its first 26 years. Indeed, there are only 3 instances, and that's only if you include the Blackbeard cameo in The Mind Robber. Pirates are the perfect fit for Doctor Who, which is why the expanded universe has explored them so many times. There's the treasure hunting, excitement, and so many mythical tales of sea monsters and demons, so there's a lot of potential there, and Curse of the Black Spot is determined to realise that. The beginning of Curse of the Black Spot sees the pirate crew of the Fancy discovering the always oblivious and socially awkward 11th Doctor alongside his companions. Captain Avery accuses them of being stowaways, which is very silly because they're clearly not one of the best songs on the Series 3 soundtrack. But pirates are paranoid, carrying more diseases than a cave full of bats, and they don't exactly have many resources to waste on prisoners. So when you commit any crime on a boat full of pirates, there's only one punishment: you get kicked off. Literally. Attempt a mutiny, you get the plank. Hoard treasure for yourself, you get the plank. Get caught carving a penis into the deck, you better believe you're walking that goddamn plank. The plank is one of the many iconic symbols of pirate culture, being thrown into the ocean and having your fate decided by old Davy Jones himself. So it's no surprise that the Doctor is sentenced to such a fate. It's enjoyable watching him stall for time, talking a million miles an hour and trying to psychoanalyze his would-be executioners just to buy a couple more precious seconds. And he definitely needs them because Amy wastes those seconds putting on a pirate outfit. Because, you know, your best friend and only way home is about to die at any moment, but you have to make sure your outfit is on point when you save him. It's a fun rescue though, an exciting sword fight action sequence once again further immersing you in the atmosphere. Yes, if you didn't already realise, The Curse of the Black Spot is a story all about pirates, and it desperately wants you to know that. For better or for worse, it's full of everything you'd associate with pirates. Even the Doctor jokes about pirates needing a parrot to fit the job description. Personally, I like that it lays it on a bit thick, because it allows the story to truly enjoy the pirate genre. If you're going to do pirates in Doctor Who, you shouldn't pull any punches, so I respect the episode for just going all out and fully embracing the setting. Obviously, paranoia played a big part in the lives of pirates, since they were constantly on the run from authorities, so superstition easily took root within their culture and the wider sailing culture. There were all sorts of rituals and routines they followed, and actions they avoided, such as considering it bad luck to step on a boat with your left foot, and bad luck to see a redhead on the way to your boat. And of course, as we all know, it's
bad luck to kill a seabird.
This overwhelming sense of superstition plays a big part of Curse of the Black Spot. The episode focuses on 2 main superstitions, sirens and the ominous Black Mark. although the black spot itself actually comes from other fiction, a plot device created for the 1880s book Treasure Island. The black spot is essentially a death mark bestowed upon a captain to either depose them from their position or even kill them outright. This makes it a terrifying and feared symbol within pirate fiction, and Doctor Who continues the trend. In this episode, the black spot is a physical mark appearing on the palm upon injury, which summons an ethereal siren to kill whoever has it. Funnily enough, this is actually incredibly similar to the book The Resurrection Casket, which saw the black mark on a piece of paper summoning a monstrous bear-like hitman to assassinate the recipient. Regardless of the familiarity and unoriginality, I love how the black spot is used in this episode. It's an immediate sign of death. Even if you get a tiny paper cut, that's enough. So it creates high stakes for the characters as they attempt to avoid any injury. We're shown multiple instances of the crew falling victim in different ways, so we understand the consequences and the danger the spot represents. And of course, because he's by far the unluckiest Doctor Who companion, Rory finds himself accidentally cut open, marking him like all the others. Since we've already seen what happens, we understand the fate looming over Rory, especially because he gets marked very early on, meaning he's in huge danger throughout the entire episode. It's still used for some good comedy though, Arthur Darvill really piling on the awkwardness and cheese once he hears the siren song, his personality completely changing and making him stagger around like a drunk lad having the best night of his life. It's really fun and goofy, reminding me a bit of New Earth when Cassandra possesses the 10th Doctor, leading to such a sudden and campy tonal change for the character. Sure, Rory was already the dorky comic relief, but Darvill is amazing in this episode, piling on the drunken obliviousness as Amy has to shepherd him around and protect him from every reflection, like the world's most justified overprotective significant other. Obviously he has plot armour, but you constantly feel like Rory is in huge danger, which creates a great through line, including some fun interactions between him and his very unamused wife.
Most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Tell me I didn't really say that.
For hundreds of years, pirates have been glorified and fictionalised to the extent that the entire legacies and lives of the pirates are steeped in mystery because of all the tales told about them. I mean, some pirates might not have even existed at all, and some did exist but as a fraction of the present stories would have you believe. However, Captain Henry Avery was very much a real pirate, a former master's mate in the Navy who later took control of a Spanish merchant ship after a mutiny. Avery would go on to sail under the Black Flag for just over 2 years. But even after such a short time, he became known as the King of Pirates, one of the most influential pirates of all time, his exploits capturing the public's imagination. He was one of the few big-name pirate captains to ever evade death in battle or execution with his treasure intact. He even completely vanished without a trace, and his treasure remains lost to this day, which is a mystery right for Doctor Who storytelling. And wouldn't you know it, they already did just that. The Smugglers, all the way back in the 60s, actually features former members of Avery's crew searching for his treasure after his disappearance, which, you know, takes place during this episode. I just think that's a neat thing to point out. Because this is Doctor Who and it would have been awkward to have a slave trader being celebrated, Avery is watered down a lot to turn him into a protagonist played by Hugh Bonneville, and I'd just like to quickly commend the costuming and makeup departments on their brilliant jobs bringing this historical figure to life. The writing of Avery in this story is very interesting and takes a lot of creative liberties given his mysterious fate. Obviously we can probably assume the real Henry Avery didn't go on an adventure with a mysterious Time Lord and leave on an alien spaceship, but it's fun to pretend. These creative liberties create fun scenes like the Doctor bringing him on board the TARDIS, so we get to see how a pirate captain from the 17th century would react to a futuristic time and space machine hidden away inside a tiny wooden box. And he doesn't think much of it. You can't please them all, I guess. I do like the pair's squabbling and dick measuring contest as they constantly bicker over who should be in charge and who has the best ship. It creates a fun dynamic, actually drawing parallels between the Doctor and Avery. Not only do they both love technobabble, they're also characters running from their past and hiding from their future by travelling with rogues for adventures and wonders. However, this episode sees Avery learn he has to stop running and accept his son, which kind of mirrors the Doctor running from his death for 200 years before finally accepting his fate, so there's a good comparison there. Yes, there's a family side plot as Captain Avery discovers his completely fictional, sickly Tiny Tim's son is a stowaway on his ship. having chased the tales of his dad being an honourable member of the Royal Navy. This was actually true. Much like a lot of pirates, Avery began as a legitimate sailor but eventually turned to the life of crime. This creates an interesting storyline for Curse of the Black Spot, because Toby has formed this entire worldview and perception of his dad. He genuinely believes that his dad is still an honourable and respectable sailor, but he's actually the exact opposite. It's important to remember the types of people real pirates actually were. Sure, you had good lads like Stede Bonnet who weren't horrible people, but the majority of pirates were lawless criminals who committed atrocities on a daily basis, not caring who they had to kill or assault to gain power and wealth. The real Henry Avery himself was a slave trader, which is bad enough, but the true horror comes when you read about what happened to the prisoners of the Grand Mughal ship Ganj Ice Away. I can't even begin to repeat what Avery and his crew did to the women on board because it's too horrific. So anyway, back to the lighter waters. It's no surprise that Toby never learned the truth about his dad, because why would any mother expose her son to the awful crimes his father is committing out on the seas? That would shatter anyone's innocence. It's a good reminder of the truth about how despicable pirates were, which also comes up as the crew betray each other, so I appreciate that the episode doesn't glamorise piracy too much. Obviously it still does because that's inevitable with stories like these, but it at least tries to show that they're pretty dodgy people. According to many accounts of his life, Avery spent most of his navy paychecks on his family, so this story runs with the idea of family versus wealth and glory. Indeed, he goes on a journey of rediscovering the importance of his family, which I would usually hate, but I think it works well within the episode. To put it simply, Avery lost his way. He spent so long away from his wife and son that he forgot why he chose the pirate life, which was to support them. But then the greed took over, and this eventually costs him because he refuses to throw away his prized crown, accidentally summoning the siren to take Toby. It's a single moment, putting everything into perspective for the pirate captain. It was easy when he was away at sea and his family was back at home so far away, because it allowed him to push those feelings of guilt and attachment away, so he could continue his piracy without worrying. However, now he actually has to take care of his son and realises he matters more. Toby is too sick to survive away from the ship, so Avery makes a choice to stay with him and pilot the spaceship into the stars on a brand new adventure together with his son, which shows a real growth and understanding when it comes to the important things in life. The riches and wealth mean nothing in comparison to his own flesh and blood. He allowed himself to stray from those duties, but now he has another chance to do things properly, and you can tell his experiences throughout the episode shape that decision because they've made him a better man.
What home does he have now if not with me?
One of the many creatures from Greek mythology is the dangerous siren, a beautiful creature whose song leads sailors to their untimely deaths within shallow and rocky waters. They've become a pretty common literary device, a good counterplay to the masculine urge to bonk anything you see because men tend to think with their dicks instead of their brains. Sirens are heavily ingrained within sailing culture, a constant mythical warning to trust no one. It's therefore a no-brainer to feature them in Curse of the Black Spot, this beautiful and angelic woman luring wounded and ill men to a very PG version of that one Torchwood scene.
He just came and went.
She's a good villain for the piece, a constant silent presence. Wherever there's a body of water, she can appear, chasing the protagonist forever unless they can get themselves somewhere dry. It's almost like they could travel halfway across the universe and... wait, hang on a minute. Moffat, were you watching reruns when you wrote the pilot? Jokes aside, the siren is always there in the background, waiting for a character to nick themselves on a splinter or get bitten by a leech, so every scratch is a death sentence. It makes her very intimidating, especially when she gets angry and sends Amy flying for standing up to her, or chases the doctor down to try and sanitize him. Yeesh, I'm not sure if I should be scared or aroused. Although, come to think of it, it's usually both at once.
You know, green singing shark in an evening gown.
Okay, is it too late to take back the whole arousal thing? A common reveal in Doctor Who is the monster actually meant well the whole time. We've seen it time and time again. The empty child, the clockwork droids, the star whale. You get the gist. It's one of the easiest twists to execute because it's an attempt to subvert the typical Doctor Who framework of big evil antagonists. The Siren is yet another example of this. After losing Rory to a storm, the Doctor takes a gamble, unleashing the Siren on him and then sacrificing himself, Amy and Avery, all on the hunch that the victims might be alive somewhere. It's a hell of an assumption, not based on much, but if there's one thing the Doctor is known for, it's taking risks. Indeed, luckily for them all, the Doctor hasn't just ended the show prematurely. They've instead ended up on a sci-fi parallel spaceship thing that doesn't make much sense, and the episode tries just about as much as the green screen people. At least it gives us the cool idea that mirrors are gateways into other dimensions, but then it's also a shame they just kind of gloss over that, because I'd love Doctor Who to explore that concept at some point. I mean, they adapted Mario 64 before they did anything with mirror dimensions, which will always baffle me. The crew of the ship is long dead from a brutal and dangerous virus, which reminds me, make sure you've had all your jabs and boosters. You don't want to end up like this guy. The Doctor and his allies also discover that the Siren is actually a medical unit looking after humans. This is more than just a simple Doctor Who twist. It's a subversion of the very nature of Sirens as an entity within fiction and mythology. However, it does feel way too similar to the Empty Child. Yet another misunderstood medical AI doing things the wrong way because it doesn't know what to do. I mean, they even use the exact same Bond plot as Amy proves her marriage to Rory in order to discharge him from the Siren's care. Oh, and then Avery can somehow free all his crew off screen, we don't even know how. The episode culminates in a very interesting and emotional dilemma. Rory was on the verge of drowning when the Siren took him, so if they take him off the life support, he'll return to that state of being on the edge of death. However, if they leave him, they'll never be able to return and he'll be stuck on the ship forever. It's a really emotional scene highlighting how much Rory trusts Amy.
What if I do it wrong?
You won't.
I think the scene gains a hugely important new dimension if you yourself are in a relationship. There's a level of trust couples develop where you trust them implicitly, more than anyone else. It's easy to sit there and judge when you don't have anyone in your life, but when you can actually relate to this kind of trust and unconditional love, you can really understand scenes like this. Rory knows Amy will never give up on him. He never gave up on her. He wanted to protect her even if it took 2,000 years to do so. They have constantly made sacrifices for each other, and it makes crystal clear sense that Rory would be so trusting to put his life in Amy's hands even though she doesn't know CPR. Because that's true love. That's what it does. You just know you can put your life in their hands because anything is possible when you're together. There's a brilliantly tense scene as Amy tries to resuscitate Rory. Because this is a TV show, you expect it to only take a few seconds, but instead it drags on and on, Amy's attempts remaining unsuccessful. They even threaten that stereotypical narrative drama zoom out as a character dies, so it casts serious doubt on Rory's survival, even if they've already played this trick so many times before with this exact same character. And yes, this does lessen the impact of this scene because it's yet another fake Rory death, but we'll probably talk about that in the overall Series 6 review. The lack of immediate success makes the scene very powerful because it shows Amy's resolve. She refuses to give up and that's what saves him. It's not a power of love ending, it's a power of trust ending. Rory placed his life in Amy's hands because they're soulmates and he just knew inside his heart that she would save him. It's one of those irrational things you feel with love. You can't explain it, but everyone who has ever experienced deep love and trust will be able to attest to this feeling of true comfort and safety at the hands of a complete other person. I feel like this moment shows more than so many acclaimed Amy and Rory moments. Besides Rory's 2,000 year wait, it's probably miles better and more powerful than any of their emotional scenes in Series 5. It's a proper admission of trust and understanding, showing us how deep and serious their bond really is. It's beautiful, tense and touching, by far the standout scene of the episode, ending what would usually be a pretty weak and forgettable narrative in a staggeringly poetic and strong way. Probably the biggest issue with The Curse of the Black Spot is its placement within Series 6. When writing first began, the episode was intended as Episode 9, taking place after Let's Kill Hitler, but around late 2010 it was instead swapped with Night Terrors to give the first half of Series 6 an injection of fun and lightheartedness. After all, not every episode can be some huge plot advancing and information heavy story. Sometimes you need something a bit fun and silly. However, its placement within Series 6 creates two big issues. Firstly, it comes off the back of the absolutely incredible two-part opener, which is difficult enough, but then it also doesn't really have any connection with Series 6A. It doesn't have a big, memorable moment of significant advancement of the series arc. There's no surprise regeneration or reveal that Amy is actually a ganger. This all just kind of makes it inconsequential and easy to skip if you're short on time or just want to focus on the story arc itself. But the weirdest thing is, it was originally going to be a perfect thematic episode fitting the series like a glove. but the late switch of position changed absolutely everything about it, which in a way shows the power and importance of an episode's placement. In Let's Kill Hitler, Amy and Rory discover that their lifelong friend Mel's was actually their own daughter Melody, so they never got to raise their child but spent all that time with her anyway. This context would completely change the entire theme and narrative of Curse of the Black Spot. It's actually the perfect thematic episode exploring this element of Amy and Rory's relationship, which makes it all the more bizarre that it got moved. It's an episode about valuing the time you get to spend with someone instead of thinking about the time you lost. That's the main part of the B-plot involving Avery and his son, the pair representing this reconciliation and acceptance that the past is the past, it's the future that matters. For Amy and Rory, they would be able to get over their lack of a family life with River, and they understand that they have all this time with her as an adult, so they get to spend time with her anyway. A lot of people criticise Series 6 for completely glossing over the huge River Melody revelation, and ignoring what it actually means for Amy and Rory's relationship. But Curse of the Black Spot was designed to address this exact plot point. It was simply rearranged and then botched in the edit to remove all reference to it. The episode being in its original spot would work perfectly, keeping the overall narrative and character beats tighter, but the shift in the running order completely wrecks the harmony and therefore massively damages the importance and rewatchability of the episode in general, since there's no reason to revisit it. So it definitely loses points for being butchered in the edit and losing all the context, making it an actually important episode of Series 6. There are some Doctor Who episodes you don't really revisit and end up disliking for no real reason. This was always the case with Curse of the Black Spot. I only watched it once after it aired and I never thought much of it. Instead, I considered it a forgettable and mediocre adventure akin to Idiot's Lantern. However, there is actually a lot to love about it, and it's definitely better than I used to think. The pirate setting is fresh and brilliantly realised, with a lot of iconography, simply enjoying the genre and all the possibilities. The music is fun and fitting for the atmosphere, helping to immerse you in the adventure. Although the effects are weaker than the rest of Series 6, and the editing is very choppy because of the rewrites and the re-editing, which creates a bit of a weird and disjointed viewing experience. Really, the main issue is the placement, because it was meant to be in the second half of the series with the context of Let's Kill Hitler, but instead it was awkwardly crowbarred into the first half of the series. This means a lot of the themes don't work relative to the episodes it's surrounded by. Overall, I would give Curse of the Black Spot an unexpected B ranking on the Series 6 tier list. It's a decent romp in a fun setting, and I like the character plots of Avery and Toby and Amy and Rory. The final scene is absolutely beautifully written and executed. The Siren being a well-meaning villain is a bit of a boring and overused trope, but it works decently. Although the twist is so essential to the storyline, it makes the episode lose a lot of rewatch value. Curse of the Black Spot is a good standalone episode, but it's bad as a part of the mostly serialized Series 6, especially when there are better standalones like the God Complex and the Doctor's Wife. And speaking of, next time will be interesting. And I'd like to give an extra special thank you to all my Diamond level patrons, Daniel Shillito, Fallon Cortez and Nissa Phillips, and my Platinum level patron, Mark Hippold Guy Taylor, and all my Gold level patrons, Alex Marston, Basil Disco PhD, Calvin, Francois AK Line Vortex, Herna Verzog, Luke_SY, and Stephen Never Miller. Thank you so much for your support.